So here is that interview with scholar Andreas Krieg on the Gulf and its future prospects. He is a lecturer, senior fellow at King's College in London, but more importantly than that, he's not just an analyst of the Gulf. I would call him more an interlocutor. He is very well connected to people in the Gulf and actually served for a time as an advisor to the Qatari government. Dr. Andreas Krieg, thank you so much.
Thank you, very kind. I mean, that's the reference to Qatar. That's almost a decade ago, but I've been back in London since. But yes, I maintain
Yes.
my networks in the region.
Yes, really appreciated. So I think it seems to all be as many predicted, as I predicted, as many people. It just all seems to be crashing down at this point. I think that they probably will piece together back some kind of ceasefire agreement. They will paste it back together. But as we're speaking, even now, there's like basically Donald Trump just said that there's not going to be any ceasefire and it's over. He insulted the Iranians in like rather crude terms, really typical. And the Iranians feeling really, I guess, bolstered and buoyed by the processions and the marches and the ceremonies for their supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Maybe they were even surprised by the number of people who turned out, feeling bolder as well, vowing to hit back. What's the mood in the circles that you're talking to? Is this the end of the Memorandum of Understanding period?
No, not yet. I think what's happening right now happens within the boundaries of acceptable behavior. As we've seen, this ceasefire has been effectively in place and quote unquote ceasefire for nearly 3 months now. And we've seen that sort of behavior happening where we have these spikes of escalation. And that's kind of almost factored in, having someone like Donald Trump there who every action will immediately be met with a reaction. And then, we end up in the spirals of tit for tat that happened last night, which is a significant one. I mean, the bombing campaign last night was significant. This was not just a one-off sort of small strike. So I don't want to downplay it. It is significant. So in my circles, very different. I mean, within countries, there are major differences. There are major differences, within Qatar. There are major differences in Saudi, in Oman, in UAE, in terms of where they want this to go, where they hope this is going to go. And also the fear that, there's some people who trust the process of thinking, we got an off-ramp, we just need to build on it. And on the other hand, you've got people who are saying this is never going to work because the Iranians can't be trusted and you can't trust the Israelis. And you've got spoilers on both sides who want to make sure the MOU is never going to be turned into a fully fledged treaty or agreement. From the mediation point of view, what I'm hearing today in Qatar, despite what happened yesterday with an attack on a Qatari LNG tanker, an Emirati tanker, and a Saudi tanker, it's not over yet. The idea is that, you keep this going, and this is a Qatari designed MOU. So they really believe that this is the only way out. They don't see an alternative. There's no plan B. I would also downplay what Trump said. This was an off the cuff comment where he said, okay, MOU is finished and, we're ceasefire is finished. This is the sort of things he says without actually thinking about the implications. Because ultimately, he's already made it clear time and again that there isn't a military solution to this conflict that he started, and there's no military way out of bombing the Strait of Hormuz and getting shipping out. There's just no military option. There's no alternative to a negotiated settlement, right? In negotiation theory, you always talk about a BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. It doesn't exist. There is no BATNA for engaging and entanglement, and coercion is only get us that far. The biggest problem with this coercion campaign from the beginning has been that the threshold of pain for Iran has been so much higher than the threshold of pain for the global economy, for the US, and for the Gulf states, frankly. And that's not going to change in the short term. Even if you invest in resilience, in divesting away from the Strait of Hormuz and bypassing and all that, none of that is going to have any effect in the short term. And the Gulf countries need to export, and they also need to import, obviously, but they need to export their oil to make money. And so ultimately, the Iranians have found a nuclear weapon which is just so much more powerful, with no threshold of actually that you need to cross in order to use it. I mean, there's a massive inhibition to use nuclear weapons, but there's no inhibition for them to actually fire a one-off projectile at a tanker, as they have shown, and they're ready to use it. And so you're in this very difficult sort of state of affairs where the Iranians don't want to make any concessions whatsoever, and saying we want to dictate our sovereignty on the Strait of Hormuz. And there is literally nothing that the Gulf or the US or the international community can really do about it.
I mean, why not just give the Iranians what they want for now and let the global economy get back to normal? Why not negotiate? Why keep using this Southern Passage? Is it a matter of principle? Is it a matter of just abiding by international law? Some could interpret it as needlessly provocative at a moment when there needs to be other priorities at this point, other than the principles of international law and the right of passage and so on.
A lot of what's happening right now is about ego and it's about principle. It's not even about money. I think from what I'm hearing from some of the negotiators, in Qatar, but also the Omanis have been dealing with the Iranians on this Strait of Hormuz issue. This isn't just about money, as it's been framed in the media, that the Iranians want money out of it.
It'd be cheaper to pay them the 2 cents,
Right. I mean, you would just...
Oman, they would be satisfied. Qatar, with Qatari payment, they would be satisfied. Even just a token payment from Qatar would appease the IRGC. They just don't want to give any impression that they are buckling to Iranian pressure.
No, I think it's more than that. The Iranians I don't think there is a way to buy them off. This is for them the major spoils of this war that was imposed on Iran by Israel and the US is the Strait of Hormuz and the sovereignty over it. This is about ego, it's about prestige, more so than money. Because where the Omanis have pulled the negotiation over the Strait of Hormuz from what initially was about a negotiation about tolls is now a negotiation over service fees, where some are saying, oh, that's the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing. First of all, it's not illegal. Second of all, is, it has to be proportionate to the service that you actually render. You can't just say, I want 40 billion a year, right? So we're looking at, if you look at what the Omanis are paying at the moment, they're saying that if they pull all of these services that they provide to keep the strait open, if they all put this together, you'll probably end up at around $50 million a year. That's peanuts in comparison to the amounts of money that Iran could potentially get from unfreezing of assets, lifting of sanctions, and so on and so forth. So it's really not about money. The service fees that the Iranians can impose proportionately within customary international law would be also in the ballpark of maybe a few $100 million. This is not, so it's not really about money. It's about prestige, it's about sovereignty, and kind of not budging at this point. Because if the Southern Corridor becomes normalized, which is absolutely within the right in the international legal right of Oman to do so.
Omani waters.
It's Omani
it's
waters.
Clearly within Omani waters.
But you're creating a precedent in the same way that you don't want to establish and create a precedent by sending all the shipping through the Northern Corridor, because then you're basically pondering towards the IRGC Navy. And so, it's a very difficult situation. And I want to add this other element of the MOU, obviously, is not legally binding. So really, if we take a legal argument, we have to look at international maritime law in this. And it's quite clear you're not allowed to attack any ship in other sovereign waters. There's no legal argument that Iran can make for why they attacked these tankers yesterday. There's just no legal argument. But if you look at the MOU and you look at the articles, I think it's Article 5, which is phrased in a way that the Iranians are now interpreting it as saying, everyone who goes through has to clear with us first, because we take the burden of freedom of navigation through the strait is on us. That's not what it actually meant to say. That's how the IRGC Navy is interpreting it. But what they're saying now is that if you want to go through the strait, you go through the Northern Corridor. Actually, the MOU says that over the next 60 days, and that was very clear, there is no obstruction to the freedom of navigation around the strait. That's been very clear. And now the Iranians are changing it because they're saying the Americans are not abiding by the MOU, the Israelis are not abiding by the MOU. It's not that simple. I think all parties are not abiding by the MOU. The fact that we're outside of this, this very I don't want to even call it a ceasefire, but where we are right now, what has become acceptable behavior is just certainly on every single actor in it, on Israel, on the US, on Iran, to blame for where we are at the moment.
Yeah. Within the Gulf, there is this rather dramatic kind of change that has taken place with the Gulf countries trying to maintain unity while at the same time trying to secure their own individual interests. And there seems to be this division that has been developing on the one hand between this, let's call it a pro-American and implicitly Israel-aligned mini axis of UAE, perhaps Bahrain and Kuwait on the one hand, and then the Saudi, Omani, and Qatari. I wouldn't call it like a pro-Iranian, but they're just more kind of looking towards the R4, the quadripartite partnership, a little bit more skeptical about American power, and a little bit more hostile, perhaps, to the Israeli actions and posture. What do you think? Where do these countries come down, and how is this all